I'm Kama.
We moved to Panama about 7 years ago with our children, 5 children at the time, and we now have 6 children.
Our boys are 15, 13, 10, 8, and our girls are 12 and 4.
We moved from Texas, and we were just looking for new opportunities, new culture, better weather, and we found everything we're looking for here in Volcan. The weather is cool here, similar to Boquete, and we just enjoy the spring-like temperatures that are year-round. It's a great improvement over the Texas heat and then the freezing cold in the winter we had in Texas, and that was one of the big things we were looking for, was the nice spring weather where we could have our windows open and doors open and our kids could play outside and we could really enjoy the outdoors. So we purchased the property here, and it's a neighborhood that was started almost 20 years ago, but then was up for sale, and we purchased the property, and it's called Corazon del Cielo, which means heart of heaven. And we came here to kind of finish out the project, building houses and also a village area. And one of the main things we were hoping to do is provide an area for families. Corazon del Cielo is broken up into 2 different areas. One area is more of a village area, and the plan is to have shops and apartments and areas for the community, public event spaces, and kind of similar to Tuscany or European villages, where there's little alleyways and courtyards and fountains and spaces for public events. And we just really liked that feel and wanted to recreate that here. And then in the other part of the neighborhood is more residential, and that's where people can buy lots and build houses. And we also want to promote permaculture and agriculture, so people have little farms and then public greenhouses and pathways with fruits and vegetables to be more self-sustaining, but just to enjoy the ability to grow such variety here at this location.
So in Volcan, we're about an hour and 15 minutes from Boquete. We're on the other side of the volcano. And here there's a lot of options for grocery stores. There's probably about 15 grocery stores in town. And there's also a lot of stores that they call Ropa Americana, which is like a thrift store for clothing. They also have all kinds of different kinds of shops, and then there's also quite a few restaurants that are really good. I even know a lot of people from Boquete that will come over here just to have, a nice hamburger at one of the nice hamburger places, or pizza at Dos Rios, something like that. Yeah, I know that there's quite a few Airbnbs available here, and hotels. There are quite a few nice ones like Los Presos, and Bambito also has a nice, up towards Cerro Punta, it's got a nice hotel. I run a vegetable market on Fridays at the Catholic Church, and we get a lot of organic vegetables up from Cerro Punta. Cerro Punta is about 20 minutes from where we live, and it's called the Breadbasket of Panama. If you drive up there, it looks like a quilt with all the different vegetables all over the side of the mountain, the side of the volcano. And it's really interesting to go up there. There's a lot of street food and a lot of different things that you can do in Cerro Punta. It's a really interesting part of town.
Also up there, it's right next to the national park, the La Amistad, I think, National Park, and there's a lot of hiking trails, and you can even hike all the way to the top of the volcano, or there's a trail that goes around to Boquete.
Ben's done the volcano hike 3 times.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but you can see both coasts, the Caribbean and the Pacific. It's a fun adventure. There were a number of reasons why we chose to move to Panama. One of the primary reasons was a change in culture. We felt like the direction of the culture in the United States wasn't as family focused, and we felt like Panama was more of a family oriented culture. Also, the opportunities here, we just see so many opportunities with this location and with the country in general, a rising middle class. Over the years that we've been here, we've seen improvements in infrastructure, more shopping, and just opportunities for entrepreneurship and starting new businesses. Another thing is here in Panama, the regulations aren't as strict here, and being an architect and loving to build things, there's not as many restrictions on building things. So I enjoy it here to be able to experiment with new structures and build things that would be pretty much impossible in the United States.
We also wanted our kids to learn Spanish and to learn a different culture than the U.S. culture.
And then, of course, as the weather is such an improvement. Again, I love being able to spend so much time outside, and then the opportunity to be able to grow things. It was just so difficult to try to grow things in Texas, and we wanted to be more self-sufficient, more self-sustaining, and be able to grow food and also have animals, which we've tried just about every animal, it seems like, here on the property.
Our kids also love it here. We have a great homeschool community. There's probably about 30 of us that meet together pretty regularly, 30 kids in the group. And then there's also a larger homeschool community that has many, many more families. In our WhatsApp group, I think there's 45 families that are just here in this area. One of the things that the kids love to do is to ride their bikes into town. We'll let the older kids do that without any problems. We've never had a problem. They go to a Spanish class on Mondays at the library that's free, and they ride their bikes there and they ride their bikes home, and we've never had a problem, and they love it. And they love being able to play outside all the time and see their friends regularly. In the States, whenever we wanted to meet with people, we would have to schedule it. 2 weeks from now, maybe we can get together. And here it's like, yeah, come on over this afternoon. We'd love to have you over. The kids went to public school about 3 or 4 years ago, right before, it was back in 2019. They went to school for a year, and they got a very good foundation in Spanish, most of them. And then now they have a Spanish tutor that comes once a week, and they do pretty good. Most of them do pretty good in Spanish. We attend a Spanish-speaking church. All the songs are in Spanish. The kids' lesson and the sermon are all in Spanish. And they all seem to understand. They watch Spanish TV, and they know what's going on. So one of the things that they need to work on is getting more Panamanian friends, but they have some friends at church that they all talk to.
So when we moved here to Corazon del Cielo, the house that we're living in now was originally a restaurant. And the previous owner had started converting it into a house, but didn't finish. So when we first moved here, the first thing was finishing it out so that we could move in. As far as other housing availability here in Volcan, it can be up and down as far as what's available for rent. A 4-bedroom house, 3 or 4 bedroom house may cost $1,000 or $1,200 a month. If you want a small 1-bedroom house or 2-bedroom house or a little apartment, you might spend $500, $600, $700. That gives an idea on cost of renting. Now, to buy a property in town, like a 1,000-meter lot in town, is about $50 a square meter. And then to buy or build a house is typically $50 to $120 a square foot if you're going to build or buy. If you go farther outside of town, the price goes down the farther away you are from the center of town. And if you go all the way down to Quezon, which is nearly 30 minutes away, you may get a bigger property for $6 a meter. And so there is a limited amount of property here because so much of the land is being used for agricultural purposes, and a lot of these farmers and ranchers and dairy people don't want to sell their property because that's the way they have their income. Also, a lot of property isn't very accessible by roads and electricity because there's just a limited amount of that type of infrastructure in this area right now.
But it's also cheaper the warmer it is.
Yeah, so the farther down the hill, the closer to Bugaba or David, the price goes down. But then the trade-off is you're dealing with the heat, you're having to pay higher electricity bills, and usually also more snakes and bugs and that kind of thing, which us being up here, the higher elevation, we don't really have to deal with snakes and bugs.
About once a month or once every 6 weeks, I usually take a trip to David, and sometimes we turn it into like a homeschool moms field trip. So we leave the kids at home with the dads, and the moms go, and we make a day of it. We go to a nice thrift store, and then we do some stuff like that. We stop at Price Mart and get some of the bulk items that we need, like bulk toilet paper or big bags of flour or sugar or whatever. And dog food there is definitely cheaper. We always get dog food and cat food there. Another place that we like to shop is in Bugaba. Bugaba pretty much is 30 minutes away. David is about an hour away. And Bugaba will do the same type of thing. We stop at a couple of different places, like an Amazon returns store called Ramate. And then we can get pretty much everything we need here locally, but sometimes we need to go to David for some bulk items.
As far as our expenses, the electricity bills here are a lot lower for us than they were in Texas. We spend about $50 a month, but that's a little bit high compared to some other families that may spend $15, $20 a month. And we just have a lot going on here and a lot of work with workers doing projects, so our might be a little bit higher. It also depends if you have an electric dryer or a gas dryer. And one of the other thing that we save a lot on is getting fruits and vegetables, and we get those here locally.
At the market that I help run, the vegetables you can get a large bag of mixed vegetables for about $5. So normally we get vegetables there. I spend less than $10 each week for our weekly vegetables. And then the main expense that we have is meat.
We do have our own chickens, so we get some eggs from that, but we get additional eggs at the store. That's about $2 a dozen. Ground beef is about $2 a pound. Boneless chicken is almost $3, I think, a pound.
Our month-to-month running expenses are around $500.
We also, when we moved here, we were spending so much money on milk, we decided, well, why don't we just get a cow? And we bought a cow, and we've basically been milking a cow the majority of the time we've lived here. And we've had multiple cows and multiple calves, and that was a totally new experience. We never did any of that before moving here. And there's just been a lot of new experiences here that we didn't ever try before. And it's just part of the fun, part of the adventure here. So here in Volcan, this is more of a working class town than Boquete, and there aren't near as many expats here. There may be maybe up to 400 expats that are in this area in Volcan. And so the people don't know English as well as Boquete. And you do have to make a little bit more of an effort sometimes with Google Translate or showing a picture on your phone to maybe get a specific item. But the people here are very friendly, and they usually know a little bit of English, and there's really not a problem buying things at the store or getting help or any of these type of things. Also, there's enough expats here that are fluent in Spanish that if you need help, there's the community here to help you. So when we first moved here, we had a health sharing plan instead of having insurance, and that covered our expenses. We had a birth here in the hospital in David, and those expenses were covered with the health sharing plan that we had in the United States.
It was a private birth, and it was like $3,800 and included everything. It included all the doctor's appointments, all the ultrasounds, everything, including the birth. We had a son who broke his arm, and we went to the hospital here, but the x-ray was on vacation. The x-ray technician was on vacation. So then we went to David or went to Bugaba, and we got x-rays, and it was $5 an x-ray at the public hospital. And then they weren't able to put the cast on, so we went to David, and they put the cast on, and it cost 50 cents.
We felt like the medical system was good enough here, and we could just save up money to be able to cover medical emergencies. So we aren't covered with any insurance right now. We're just doing the self-insured, I guess. As far as safety goes, we feel very safe and secure here with our kids. And I think the other expat families feel the same way. We know other families that will have their kids ride bicycles into town or walk around town or ride a horse into town. go on hikes, and we don't have concerns about their safety. So when we first moved here, when first came 7-8 years ago, a lot of the roads in town in Volcan, nearly all of them were just rock roads or almost horse paths. But over the years, almost all those are now paved and nice, fairly new asphalt roads. And the roads going to other places, going to the border, to Rio Sereno, the Costa Rica border, or going to Quezon or Boquete or David, those have all been they've all been repaved recently and are much nicer. And now the road in town also has new road, new sidewalks, trees,
bike path,
lighting. Like I said, the infrastructure is getting better. The internet options are getting better. The electrical system's getting better. The water system's getting better. So things are improving and going in the right direction here. So as far as activities here, we often do activities with our friends and in the community, and our homeschool group will sometimes go take trips to the beach together. There's also a hiking group that meets twice a week that does hiking on local trails, or there's other hiking options. A number of people do horseback riding. We have friends that have bought horses because their kids just love the horses so much. And we have a couple of families that have horses, and that's kind of a big thing here. And
there's also a ladies group that meets twice a month to go out to eat, or to eat at somebody's house, just to socialize.
We feel like the restaurants here are pretty good for the size of the town. This area is about 20,000 people, and we feel like the restaurant quality is really good, at least for our liking. There's a lot of natural beauty in this area, just forest, rivers, streams, and places to explore, waterfalls. So if you're someone that just likes to be outdoors and do things in nature, there's a lot of opportunities for that here.
If you're interested in starting over somewhere new, you should definitely check out Volcan.
Come try it out. Do an exploratory trip. Make connections with the local expat community, because they'll be there to help you. They've already gone through all these things. They can help you with getting paperwork done, or answer questions, or help you translate, or find a place to stay for short term. We really encourage people to get connected with the local expat community wherever you're at, because it really makes your adjustment to a new place much easier. And try it out for a while. If you don't like it, maybe move on to a different part of Panama, or maybe it just doesn't work for you. But we would encourage people to at least try it out, do an exploratory trip. For those that kind of want to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time, go with one of Jackie's relocation tours, or get her online guide, and that will just help kind of narrow down the areas you might want to explore, or areas you might want to live for a short amount of time. And like I said, just reach out to the expat community and don't try to do it all by yourself. We can all help each other. So we got to know a number of families before we even moved here. So when we did an exploratory trip, we already had families that we kind of knew from having Zoom calls or whatever, and already answering some basic questions, so that when we got here, we could go and visit them in person, ask them questions, they could show us around. And that was just one of the big things that brought us to Volcan, were the other families, homeschooling families, that had similar perspective on life, and we could quickly have new friends here, and not only for us, but also for our children. So if you want a better life, more freedom, new opportunities, and a lot of fun, and more time outdoors, then come to Volcan. Come give us a visit. We'd love to see you. We'd love to talk to you. We have people dropping by almost every day. We have some new family or couple from somewhere, from Europe, North America, Australia, all over, and they'll just stop in and ask questions and see what's going on. So we welcome anybody to come talk to us, and we'd love to see you.